Nuck's killer is about to be exposed, and it's not who you think everybody expects. And somebody's dream of leaving Chicago alive might die right along with that secret. Before this episode even drops, one thing is already clear. Nobody on the South Side is walking away from this one clean. The Chi is down to its final 2 chapters, and episode 9, titled Cold Feet, is about to pull the rug out from under every single person who thought they had it figured out. This is the penultimate episode of the entire series, which means there is no more room for filler, no more room for slow burns. Every scene from here on out is a countdown clock, and the show knows it. After everything that went down in the last episode, the South Side is entering its coldest stretch yet, and honestly the title could not be more fitting because almost every major player right now is dealing with some version of cold feet, whether that's about a wedding, a confession, or straight up running for their life. Let's start with the biggest storyline hanging over this entire season, because it is about to come to a head. Emmett has been sitting on a secret that could destroy his relationship with Kiesha, and it is not his secret to keep anymore. He knows who really took Nuck out, and it is not who most people in the neighborhood assume. Now with the wedding creeping closer and closer, Emmett is stuck between 2 choices that both feel impossible. He can either walk down the aisle carrying a lie that could blow up his entire marriage before it even starts, or he can finally open his mouth and tell Kiesha the truth, knowing full well that truth is going to break her heart in a way she has never experienced on this show before. And here's the thing people need to understand about Kiesha. She has always been the calm one, the composed one, the woman who holds everything together while everybody else around her falls apart. But there is only so much a person can absorb before something cracks. If Emmett tells her what really happened, we could be about to see a side of Kiesha that this entire series has never shown us, and honestly it might be about time. Now let's talk about Bakari, because his situation might be the most dangerous one heading into this episode. In the last episode, Bakari made a decision that nobody saw coming. Instead of protecting the person who told him to stay quiet, he went the opposite direction and told Detective Toussaint the truth about his own involvement, clearing his name in the process. That is a huge move because it means Bakari chose himself for once instead of staying loyal to people who have never truly protected him. He is trying to get out of Chicago completely, heading to Atlanta with Brittany and Lene, looking to finally start over, and maybe even get back to the book he gave up on years ago. But anybody who has watched this show long enough knows that the South Side does not let people leave that easily. The streets have a way of pulling people back in right when they think they are free, and Bakari choosing to tell the truth might have just put a target on his back that he cannot outrun even in another state. The description for this episode straight up says tensions are going to run high as Bakari makes a choice that puts his life and his future on the line. And that is not a throwaway line. That is a warning. Then there is Tiff, and honestly, her story might be the most tense of them all right now. She has been untouchable for most of this season. Sitting on money, sitting on power, acting like the streets could never touch her the way they touched Alicia before her. But that kind of confidence always comes with a price on this show. Now that Bakari has broken away from the story she told him to stick to, Detective Toussaint is circling closer than she has all season, and Tiff knows it. She can feel the walls closing in, and desperate people make desperate mistakes. If Toussaint finally gets the piece of information she needs to connect Tiff directly to what happened to Nuck, this entire power structure on the South Side could collapse overnight, and Tiff would have nobody left to blame but herself. And we cannot forget what just happened to Reg, Jake, and Victor. Losing their mother the way they did was one of the most gut-wrenching moments of this entire final season, and grief has a way of either tearing families apart or pulling them back together. Right now it looks like it might actually be doing the second thing. Reg showed a side of himself we rarely get to see, vulnerable and shaken instead of hard and guarded, and that softness cracks something open between him and Victor. There are signs that these brothers might actually find their way back to each other before the series ends, which would be one of the few moments of real healing this show has earned. But peace on the Chi never lasts long, and with only one episode left after this one, the window for these brothers to actually fix things is closing fast. Now let's dig deeper into what this wedding is actually going to look like, because Emmett and Kiesha's relationship has been the emotional backbone of this final season, and it deserves every bit of attention it's about to get. These two have already been through so much just trying to agree on what kind of wedding they even want, clashing over details that seem small on the surface but were really about something much bigger underneath. Kiesha wants something that feels true to who she is, and Emmett has been trying to prove, over and over again, that he has actually grown into the man she deserves. But growth means nothing if it's built on a lie. And that is exactly where Emmett finds himself walking into this episode. He has spent this entire season trying to be honest, trying to break the cycle of secrets that has hurt so many people around him. And now the biggest secret of all is sitting right in front of him with a deadline attached. If he waits any longer, Kiesha finds out on her wedding day or after, from someone else in the worst possible way. If he tells her now, he risks losing her completely before they ever make it down the aisle. There is no version of this conversation that ends without pain, and that's exactly why this moment has been built up for so long. The show has been setting the pieces for this exact collision for multiple episodes, and Cold Feet feels like the moment it all finally lands. Let's shift over to Detective Toussaint for a second, because her investigation into what really happened to Nuck has quietly become one of the most important threads of this entire final stretch. She has been circling this case with the kind of patience that should scare everybody involved, because detectives like her do not give up once they smell something wrong. And now that Bakari has broken away from the story Tiff wanted him to stick to, Toussaint has a loose thread to pull on. And loose threads on this show always unravel at the worst possible time for the people trying to hide something. If she manages to connect enough dots, this is not just about Tiff anymore. This becomes about everybody who knew, everybody who stayed quiet, and everybody who benefited from Nuck disappearing without much of a fuss. That list includes people the audience has grown to care about, which makes this investigation feel less like a subplot and more like a ticking bomb sitting underneath the entire Southside power structure. Now Jake and Papa's storyline deserves some real attention here too. Because grief hits different for everybody, and Jake has been carrying his mother's death in a way that's starting to show cracks. Papa has been trying to be there for him, the way real friends do when somebody they love is falling apart quietly instead of loudly. But there's tension brewing between Jake and people close to him who keep trying to tell him how he should be grieving instead of just letting him feel what he feels. That kind of tension usually comes out sideways on this show, whether that's through a party that goes too far, a decision made out of anger, or a moment where somebody finally snaps and says what they've been holding in. Jake throwing himself into hosting and business has always been his way of avoiding what's actually hurting him, and there's only so long a person can outrun grief before it catches up in a way they can't control. And then we've got to talk about Reg, Victor, and the possibility of this family actually healing before the series ends. Losing Peaches cracks something open in Reg that nobody expected, stripping away the hardness he's worn like armor for most of this show. That vulnerability did something important. It gave Victor a reason to look at his brother differently, to consider that maybe the anger he's been holding on to isn't worth carrying into whatever time these brothers have left together. Reg letting Bakari go, releasing him from whatever arrangement they had, was already a sign that Reg is trying to change, trying to be somebody his mother would have been proud of before she passed. Whether Jake feels the same way is still an open question, because his grief has been more focused on his mother specifically rather than on repairing what's broken with his brothers. But with only one episode left after this one, the show does not have time to waste on slow reconciliation. If these brothers are going to find peace, it has to start showing up now in ways the audience can actually feel, because there won't be another chance after the finale airs. All of these storylines are converging at the exact same moment, in the exact same episode, and that is not an accident. The show has spent 8 seasons building relationships, breaking them down, and testing whether the people of the South Side can survive their own choices. Cold Feet is where the bill comes due for almost everybody, and based on everything we know heading in, this is not going to be a quiet, gentle episode. This is the one where the truth stops hiding, where the past stops waiting patiently in the background, and where at least one relationship on this show is never going to look the same again after the credits roll. Let's get into the predictions now, because based on everything we know heading into this episode, there are a few outcomes that feel almost impossible to avoid. Starting with Emmett and Kiesha, all signs point to this being the episode where the truth finally comes out. Emmett has spent this entire season trying to prove he's become a better man, and a better man does not walk into a marriage built on a lie. The episode description itself tells us Emmett opens up about what's been weighing him down, and there is only one thing weighing him down heavy enough to matter this late in the series. When Kiesha finds out who really took Nuck's life, and finds out that people she trusted knew and said nothing, that betrayal is going to hit different than anything else this show has thrown at her. She has spent this entire series being the strong one, the patient one, the one who holds it together while chaos swirls around her. This might be the moment that finally breaks that pattern, And honestly, it's about time we see Kiesha allowed to fall apart the way everybody else on this show has been allowed to. Now for Bakari, and this is the one that genuinely worries me. He made the boldest move of his entire arc by telling Detective Toussaint the truth and clearing his own name, choosing himself over protecting Tiff. That takes guts, especially on a show that has never rewarded honesty without making somebody pay a price for it first. He's heading to Atlanta with Brittany and Lene, trying to build a life outside of Chicago, trying to get back to the version of himself that wanted to write a book instead of survive the streets. But here's the problem. The South Side does not let people leave clean. And the episode description straight up warns us that tensions run high as Bakari makes a choice that puts his life and his future on the line. That is not vague writing. That is the show telling us directly that Bakari's exit is not guaranteed to be safe. Whether that means Tiff comes after him for flipping on her, or whether it means somebody else entirely sees him as unfinished business, Bakari might be walking into the most dangerous stretch of road he has ever crossed, right when he thought he was finally free. As for Tiff, the walls are closing in and she knows it. She has spent this whole season acting untouchable, sitting on money and power like nothing could ever reach her. But Bakari breaking away from her story changes everything. Detective Toussaint is not the type to let a lead go cold, and with Bakari no longer covering for her, Tiff is exposed in a way she has never been before. If she gets desperate, and everything about her character this season suggests she will, she could make a move that ends up hurting the people closest to her instead of protecting herself. That includes Victor, who has already grown uneasy watching her become exactly the kind of ruthless operator Alicia used to be. Tiff might be walking straight into her own downfall, and the tragedy of it is that she might take somebody innocent down with her on the way. For Reg, Jake, and Victor, there's actually a small window of hope here, and honestly this show has earned the right to give these three brothers something good before it ends. Losing their mother cracked Reg open in a way that finally let Victor see him differently, and if that healing continues in this episode, we could get one of the only genuinely warm moments left in this entire final season. But do not get too comfortable because Detective Toussaint is still out there, and there's still unresolved business tied to Reg from earlier in the season that could come back at the worst possible time. Whether these brothers get to actually enjoy peace with each other, or whether the past reaches back one more time to pull Reg into trouble, is going to say everything about how this show wants to send these characters out.